Well, hey everyone, it is Aaron or LM9, and today I've got something a little new on the channel here. I used to do a little bit of podcasting here and there, but this week we've got something brand new, and this is a new podcast called Custom Recap. And I'm here with Nate from Nate's Minifigs. So, Nate, if you wanted to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about what Custom Recap is.
Yeah, so I'm natesminifigs, and Custom Recap is a series that I started doing on my YouTube and Instagram a few months ago, and it was just kind of trying to highlight some of the outstanding work with the community. I feel like there wasn't anything like this at the time. That was kind of going over showcasing like everyone's creativity, so I just tried to put that out there and kind of died out. But I wanted to revive the series, and so in talking with one another, we decided to put it into a podcast format. And so this is kind of what it is now.
Yeah, and one of the big things about Custom Recap is that it's mainly focusing on the Instagram community. Because if you guys don't know here on YouTube, that the majority of the Lego customizing community is over on Instagram. So there's so many talented customizers over there that have so many great figures that you guys over here on YouTube are just missing. So what the whole point of the Custom Recap podcast is to make you guys aware of all of these different customizers on Instagram and bring those custom to this type of audience. So it's just a lot of these people are just so talented and they deserve a lot of praise for what they do and a lot of recognition. And I feel like sometimes they don't get that. And there's a lot of people on YouTube that just don't know they even exist, which is such a shame.
Yeah, definitely agree.
So we can go ahead and kick things right off. We wanted to start off with just like some of the, I don't know, maybe the more well known customizers, but just people that are more prominent in the community and people that are just making some super creative and innovative stuff as part of this, like this main section. So the first batch of figures we wanted to talk about was Dylan Alvamost on Instagram, who's also known here on YouTube as the Moose Figs. And we wanted to talk about first his Skyrim helmet. I'm not exactly sure what it is exactly called, but he made this earlier in January. And oh, one other thing that we forgot to mention is that for this episode, for this pilot episode, we wanted to focus in on customs from like January throughout February. And when we do these, we kind of wanted to do them like either bi-weekly or every month or so, just so we can have a good amount of content to talk to you guys about. And we'll be having other people on hopefully at some point, but this batch of figures is in this podcast is just going to be from January to February. And we kind of cut it off to Friday night, which is when we're recording this. So there might be stuff posted before this gets out there that we just didn't include, and that's mainly just because it's a little too late. But back to what Dylan made here, the Skyrim helmet just is super nice. I think Dylan is one of the best sculptors in the community for sure. And just this accessory is just so nice. I think a cool technique he did in that was he included like an internal frame to the horns, so that way he could shape them a lot easier than just doing a completely solid sculpt. So that way he could actually shape it right.
Yeah, and I think one of my favorite parts about this post in general is just that it is just the helmet. I think a lot of customizers out there feel like a pressure to post a final figure, and I think it's kind of cool to see such a unique just piece just put out instead of having a full figure, which Dylan usually posts, full figures that are completely done
Right.
and super hyper detailed, as you'll see with the next figure we'll talk about. But I just thought it was cool to see just the helmet, and it's super well done. So
Yeah, and that kind of segues into what we wanted to talk about with the next figure of his, which is the Davy Jones from Pirates of the Caribbean. And I know Dylan absolutely loves this character, and he's made a couple iterations of this guy already in the past like 2 years. And so this is like his, I don't know, one of his magnum opus figures. Is just something that he's been trying to perfect, and I think he definitely did it with this version. Just one of my favorite things on here is just the sculpted texture throughout this whole guy. He looks so gross with all the barnacles and just all of that different sculpt on there is just super nice and super grimy and just looks awesome.
yeah, I think that there was one other version he did prior to this, which was incredible. That I was I didn't think he'd ever redo it, but I didn't know that it could be improved so much because if I think on this post there's a comparison to the previous one maybe that he did, but the upgrades on this one are significant, and I think just the sculpts on this and just his figures in general are incredible.
Yeah, and what you're saying with how you didn't think it can be improved, when he showed me the old version of this one, I was like, that old one's still pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know it needed to be upgraded, but he definitely did a great job doing that, and just the sculpt work on that is just insane. And like I was saying, I think he's one of the best sculptors in the community, and he sent me some work in progress photos of what he's working on now. So that's his Godzilla and his King Kong he's working on for Godzilla versus King Kong, and these just kind of came out of nowhere. He wasn't really a huge fan of this franchise, and then he watched all the movies. Was like, what, I'm gonna sculpt both of these guys from scratch, and so it's just a phenomenal sculpt job on these guys so far. He hasn't finished them just yet, but I'll be flashing up the pictures of what they're looking like right now, and it just looks insane. Like, I know people would probably be like, "Oh, this doesn't look Lego anymore" or something like that, but it's like, who cares? Like
Right.
that stuff is just amazing looking.
Really impressive. And I don't know if we'll see anyone else even try to tackle those figures just because of how much sculpt work would be required.
Yeah, I know. He's been working on those for like a couple weeks at this point at the time we're recording this, so like who knows how much longer he has left. I think he finished the sculpt on King Kong, but I don't think he's finished Godzilla just yet. But
Hmm.
seeing these painted is just going to be amazing, and those are going to be some of the best figures of this year that we'll probably see.
Right.
Well, that's pretty much it for Dylan, what he's been working on, because he hasn't really been making too much other than those figures, since he's been kind of working on those for the whole month of February, it seems like. So we can move on to another person here, Jan-Figs. He's one of my better friends in the community, and he's been working on a My Hero Academia, or is that how you say it? I have no idea if that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. I think it's that. I've never
Yeah,
seen it either, but
yeah, it's an anime that I have never seen. I'm not a big anime guy, but he is all of a sudden, and he's just making this huge project of these figures from the show. And it, like, even though I have no idea what any of these characters are or who any of them are, like, I can still acknowledge, like, damn, these figures are so nice looking.
hmm.
So I couldn't tell you any of these guys' names, but dude with the red hair, we'll start talking about him first. One of the things I really liked about that was that he did that wrinkled skirt piece that was, he like glued it on the inside or something, so that way it would lay crinkled like that, and it looks super clean.
I think that the paintwork on these are some of my favorite like paint techniques I've seen used, because they really emulate some of the paint techniques used in the like tabletop games community, um, in terms of like Warhammer or other similar um, board games and stuff. I think he really did a great job with the hair on the, I think it's the Deku figure, using like
Yeah,
the base coat of black, and then you can see the highlights of green and whatever. On all of these, you can see a lot of traditional like customizer paint techniques where they're kind of trying to emulate the Lego style in terms of where he's putting lines and how he's trying to express wrinkles. But there's also some newer techniques that are being introduced, kind of through a lot of people like, which are taking them from the tabletop games community, which is like really impressive. And I think that's where I want to see the community go towards, is like really focusing more on impressive paintwork and taking a lot more time per figure rather than just trying to pump out a bunch based around movie releases or whatever. But
yeah, I definitely agree with that sentiment. Jared is doing a great job working the Citadel paints, and he's been getting me on that bandwagon too. I've got couple jars of it sitting on my desk, and they're just so easy to use, and just you can do so much cool stuff with them in terms of shading and just all of the different colors you can make with them. And he's kind of like, I guess, the forerunner of that painting technique in the community right now. And like you were saying, I love how he's being really innovative with these figures, and he's kind of leading that charge. One of the things I wanted to talk about was on the guy with the fire. I think his name is Bakugo, if I'm saying that right. He's doing another cool thing where he's implementing casts into his figures,
mm,
and what he's doing, he's making a raw sculpt, then he's casting it in translucent resin. So he had that for that cool fire effect in that dude's
wow,
hands.
I wasn't even aware
And
of that.
yeah, it's super innovative and super cool that he's able to do that, and that's why I kind of want to get into casting for myself, so that way I can do just really cool things like that are super unique. And then I think the last figure that he's had posted right now is All Might. I know him because Jared's been talking about him. So, and that guy really highlights that really clean paint work with the red, the white, and the blue on that. And I really love the expression on this guy. He looks absolutely nuts. And I've no idea what the source material actually looks like, but It's really awesome. I think Jared also made like effects pieces for him too, like a stand or something, that I'll be able to throw in here as well, which has got like a Smash logo on it or something that uh, just looks super awesome. And I can't wait to see the rest of these guys, even though I have no idea what MHA is really about. But it's still really cool to see somebody doing unique figures like this.
Totally agree.
All right, cool. Well, that kind of wraps it up for Jared. He's working on his anime figures, so we'll move on to our friend Tristan, our custom brick builder. Nate, I don't know if you wanted to lead the charge on his Mando clan that he's been working on.
Yeah, definitely. So I think you reached out, and I've been putting out a lot of these 3D prints. If you're familiar with my stuff at all, I've been selling the Mandalorian stuff recently, and I was able to get him a bunch of stuff in really quick time frame. And he wanted to do this cool project where he created kind of his own clan of Mandalorians using characters he just made up. Super, super unique, and I haven't seen anyone else besides him do this. And I think like he kind of made a theme of the dark blue looks to be like represented in almost each of these figures. And he also has the pit droid in there, which I think is really cool. Pretty articulated for how small it is. But yeah, I think it's a really impressive project, and these were put out in a really quick amount of time, considering how much detail is in each of these figures. A lot of these figures have like techniques and stuff that's not repeated on any of the other ones. I'm thinking specifically of this one where it has a fur trench coat thing on top, which is really, really cool.
Yeah.
I think a lot of these have cool techniques that stand out from one another, make them unique, and they all have a lot of character. So
Yeah, I know each one is just, so much different from the next. And I really like that he keeps that consistent pattern of the dark blue to match, I guess, his logo. But also, I really like the shark teeth pattern he's got on a few of them. I think on the one with the trench coat you were talking about,
mhm.
and then on the Mandalorian on the far left there, on the visor and on the helmet, just looks super awesome. And I haven't seen anybody else do a Mando clan yet. But I guess your parts are making that a lot easier to be able to just churn out Mando customs, because sculpting is where the time is really spent when you're doing Mandalorian figures like that. And so with your 3D printed or your resin printed parts, it just makes it so much easier, because all you have to do is just focus in on the paint, and that just makes it so much easier for people to make their figures like that.
Really cool to see what people are doing. I think that there's a lot of people making pretty unique Mandos out there, and hopefully, with more projects I have down the line, I think we'll see the same thing with other characters and stuff. But the
Yeah,
next thing he
absolutely.
has is these range troopers. I'm not sure if he's the one who designed these or not. I think it might have been someone else, but he
I think it
has
was
done up a bunch
Morphonauts
of
did
these.
those.
The paint job is really awesome on them, and I think that the potential for 3D printed parts from a variety of different people, as well as resin casted parts moving forward, like you were saying, makes it just that much easier for a lot of newcomers to the community to be introduced into painting and customizing in general. I think it's a really cool thing to see a lot of people who would have normally probably avoided customizing get into it through um, the ability to just use 3D printed parts, more like a model kit on their
Yeah.
minifigs, and using the best of their painting skills to show the uniqueness between the different customizers.
Yeah, I guess that, one of the scariest parts about starting off, customizing your Lego stuff is, like, you see all these guys out there that can just do this insane sculpt work, and then you try for your first time, you're just like, wow, this is awful. And you're just like, you get really discouraged from it. And that's how I was when I started. I tried sculpting stuff and it just was not good. So, it can scare you a little bit. And so by having access to just, you know, kits like that you can just glue onto your figures and just paint up real nicely, and just have like a banger looking figure, something that looks really crisp, and all you have to do is just the paint job. Then you can focus on perfecting your paint work first, and then once you feel comfortable with that, you can start dabbling in other areas, like maybe designing stuff for yourself or sculpting or something like that. So it's a great gateway, I guess, is a way to put it. So then we can, after Tristan's stuff, we can go ahead and take a look at Hoodie Studios. He's always very good with his stuff in terms of the paintwork and the photography. One of the ones we wanted to focus on was his Fallout Mandalorian. He used some of Nate's resin printed pieces for this, and on this guy, he just has fantastic paintwork as always. And Griff is like the leading guy when it comes to taking cool ass photos on Instagram. He is like a photography guru, I guess, or something like that. And he just takes these really, really pristine looking photos, just makes his figures pop. Nate, I was telling you that I want I want to send him some of my figures just to have him take pictures of them so I can have some cool stuff to post.
Yeah, it'd be nice if everyone had that high quality of photos. But something I want to talk about this figure in specific is the mods on the gun, as well as just the
Oh
paintwork
yeah.
overall. His really cool rust pattern. I really wish we could include like a lot more of his work, but we're only sticking to like the last couple months. When he started posting his custom painted stormtroopers, they were more of like putting, it's all like the same base of a figure underneath, but they have all different paint jobs that separate, you know, each of the figures in terms of style and what they're trying to be. I think it's really cool how he has created this own little niche with him inside of the community where he's kind of doing his own thing no one had been doing before. I think it's cool how he's also really upping the game in terms of photo quality. Not too many other customizers have the editing skills required to pull off such great photos that he makes. So every time he posts, I'm always just really inspired to try to do better with mine, even though I always find myself falling behind in terms of photos just because I need to just get posts out there. But he really spends time on his posts, which makes the figures you're able to just really understand how much detail work is in these things. And so I think it's really cool. You can see that with each photo he posts.
Yeah, and I hope the way he takes his pictures and he edits them and everything, I hope that inspires other people to
Mhm.
do the same way and focus on their photos skills, because there's a lot of people out there that can make these great looking figures, but they take just awful photos of their stuff. It's like, come on, man, this would look so much better if you just had, a nicer camera, or just took a little bit more time to really, pay attention to the way you're taking photos,
Right.
because that's the whole point. You're taking a picture of it to post online, and like the figure can look good, but like the photo needs to be good for it, to really resonate with people, I guess.
Right. I think that's almost half of half of it sometimes where it's make an amazing figure, but you're not able to let people know how great it is because of the photo is really distracting
Yeah.
from the sculpts or the paintwork, because I think a lot of it is just lighting. People could look up on YouTube some tutorials on quick lighting fixes they can do just to improve the photo quality. It goes a long way in terms of people being able to appreciate your figures that much more.
No, absolutely. So hope Griff acts as an inspiration for some people out there to maybe invest in a better camera and focus in on taking good pictures, because some people could really benefit from that. And I feel like they would I don't know, maybe increase their follower count or something like that if they take better pictures, because people would be able to like really pay attention to the figure at that point and see like all of the work that they put into it.
Yeah, definitely agree.
Yeah. So we can move on. I know we've been talking about your cast for or your resin parts for the past couple figures here, and this next one is a blend between your prints and some of my helmet casts. And this is Bo-Katan by Sakurai. And like I was saying, this is my helmet cast of my Bo-Katan that I released a couple months ago on StarWarsFanatics.com, and then your uh, printed parts for pretty much everything else, I think, right?
Yeah, I think there's a few parts that he has sculpted himself.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think the gauntlets look sculpted by
Hmm.
him, maybe the shoulders, and then also the shin guards. But it looks like the knee pads, that torso armor, and the belt look like your stuff.
I don't know if that belt's mine, but I think that the
Okay.
shoulders, chest armor are, and the knee
Okay,
pads for
cool.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, but there was something we wanted to talk about this, other than it being our stuff, but also just the clean paintwork on the helmet. Especially, he did
Hmm.
a great job on that, and doing the night owl symbols on the shoulders. And I think this is the first one we saw that was a blend between our stuff, which was great to see people picking and choosing stuff from other different, I guess you could call us vendors at this
Yeah.
point, or people that are just producing stuff for the customizer community to use. So it's great to see a mishmash of stuff at this point, because it keeps everything unique, because you can do different combinations between our stuff, or just anything for that matter, any third party accessories out there. Also, that blue color is really nice on that too. I think he nailed that.
Hmm.
So is there anything else you wanted to add about Socks
No, I
Bo-Katan?
really like the figure. I think you mentioned the blue color. I don't know if it's like the exact color, but I think it works as a figure because it's a little bit more like playful of a blue than I think the navy one that she has in the show.
Yeah.
And the orange contrasted the brownish orange. I think that's a great selection of colors of paint. And as just the proportions of the details on the forehead are probably some of the better paint work I've seen for Bo-Katan out
Yeah.
there. A lot of people struggle to get the placement right, for a lot of those like finer details, and I think it's just impressive how small um, those little lines are, but was able to make them look near perfect.
Yeah, I agree. I think in the picture we're looking at here of her standing against the the background of it looks like a cruiser interior. I think he edited the Clan Kreese logo in the center there because I think he was telling us he had glare right over it,
Mm,
and so it was like you couldn't see it at all. So I think he re-edited over that. But I think there's another picture I can put up of it with not the glare there that you can actually see his paintwork, and it looks pretty much just the same.
hmm.
So and there's some people I was looking at that I was like that looks kind of edited, but I'm sure there's a reason
Right.
why. But yeah, so we're on the kick of Bo Katan, so we can move on to our buddy Ross over at MGF Customs, who did almost the same exact thing as Sakurai, where he took a blend of our stuff. I think he's using almost everything on that is yours on the torso and on the legs. Now, from this picture, you can't really see everything, but you can see that much. And then I think he did the sculpted shoulders and the gauntlets, which
Hmm.
look pretty good. But one thing I really wanted to touch on with this figure is I really love the weathering on it. I think he did a great job with the splotches, the scrapes, and everything. And he also had like the discoloration on the top of the helmet. You can see like a darker blue that's splotched on there. And I love that he captured that realistic look of her battle damage in the show on this figure. Because I don't know if Ross usually ever really does like battle damage like that before. I can't remember. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure this might be a first for him, and it looks really awesome.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think Ross's paintwork, just his line work in general, is borderline robotic. How accurate like some of his lines are. Everybody knows this. Everybody
Yeah,
understands like how great his figures are, especially his line work on like a lot of
it's
torsos and stuff. But I wanted to highlight something we talked about with Sakurai's post. Same thing for this one. That it's cool to see exactly how you were saying people using a lot of different parts. You can see your helmet used with I'm not sure if that's maybe a Clone Army Customs rangefinder.
I think it's AV if
Okay,
I'm not
cool. Yeah,
mistaken.
I think that's cool. They're combining that with my parts and also his sculpted elements, so it's always cool. I know there's a few people who are kind of against the new movement of people creating resin cast and 3D parts because maybe figures will look too, yeah, similar. But I think this is great evidence right here that just because there's a lot of new options out there doesn't mean you have to use all of them. If you personally don't find them your style
Yeah.
or whatever, I think it's cool to see people doing their own thing.
Like I know you and I probably have an eye for this, but when we look at Ross's Bo-Katan and then Sock's Bo-Katan, like those are completely different figures, even though
Yeah,
they're
right,
using
right,
the
right.
same stuff. I mean, they both look great in their own regards, but like for people like us that I guess have an eye for it, you can tell, like, yeah, these are different. Whereas,
Yeah, very
some people
different.
that might not be in the customizer community would be like, that's the same thing. And then you have the people that are just like, oh, that doesn't look Lego anymore. It's got all these parts on it. It's too 3D. It's like, whatever. I
That's
know.
another discussion for another day.
Yeah, that's a discussion for a whole. We could talk for hours about that whole
Right.
argument, but to each their own. We'll leave it at that. So, if you don't have anything else to say about this Bo-Katan, we can move on to some work of our friend Benson Bone. He was doing some pretty unique stuff. The first one we can talk about is the Mayfeld he made from the Mandalorian in his tank trooper disguise from what was it, episode 6, The Prisoner,
That
I
sounds
think.
right.
Yeah, I think it was that one, or at least the number wise. But that figure just looks great. I haven't seen anybody else do this outfit for him yet. I did the one from season 1, so this is the first one I've seen from season 2. And Benson is one of those customizers out there that I think is one of the best painters like ever. Because that whole torso and the arms and the torso's arms and the legs just have this immaculate looking paintwork on it, especially with all the little thin detailing on that shin armor, and then everything on the torso, it looks printed. And I think that that helmet too, it's a modified Lego helmet, and he just raised some areas of the sculpt to make it a little more accurate, and it just does wonders to that helmet mold.
Yeah, I when I first saw the tank trooper Mayfeld figure, I thought it was either decal or printed. I
That's
wasn't
what I
sure
thought too.
what the chest was, but it's really impressive to know that that's all painted. And you were mentioning the shins as well. I think those lines. I don't know how he was able to get the separation is. You can see it's very visible that you can tell in between those little details that they're separated lines, but just the fact that they're all like spaced correctly, it's just really impressive.
Yeah, I agree. And then another figure we wanted to touch on from him was his. I think he posted this a couple days ago. Was his battle damage Darth Vader, which is based off of a mod for Battlefront 2. And at first I thought it was something from Force Unleashed, but I guess he just found a mod out there for Vader from that game that just looks the same, and that's just such a unique looking figure. I think. Yeah, I love the scorch marks on it, and I love how he took the robotic limbs, and I think he 3D printed those, if I'm correct, for, at least for the arm. And then he's got all the gold showing for all of Vader's robotic parts. He's got that cool blast mark on the torso there, and I think this is a modified version of a Vader sculpt he did, and then he got casted, and so then he was able to make this iteration of it.
Yeah, I think this is an awesome figure. Super unique idea to do something other than just a standard Vader. I really like the paintwork on the face, the way that it kind of has that gradient of lighter flesh to the
Yeah,
darker red areas. I think it looks really good. And yeah, I don't know. Do you know if he posted the Vader that he did earlier, or
he
is
posted.
this his first kind of appearance of his casts?
I think he posted the sculpt, but I don't think he's painted a full just
Hmm.
normal Vader yet, to my knowledge. But
Well,
that's
when he
something.
does, I'm excited to
Yeah,
see the regular version of Vader painted up because that sculpt work is incredible, and you
yeah.
can see a little bit. I think that arm specifically is like almost the exact same as the one he's gonna probably post in the future. But yeah, super excited to see the stuff he puts out with that Vader cast in the future.
Yeah, and if he starts selling that cast, I'm going to buy one of those because that just looks
Definitely.
absolutely amazing. So while we're on the topic of clean painters like Benson, we can move on to AJ or Anon Figs. We've got I think 4 of his figures we wanted to talk about.
Hmm.
The first one is pretty topical for I guess the relevant stuff in pop culture, and that is his Quicksilver from WandaVision. And AJ is just such a great hair sculptor, especially he's a great sculptor in general, but his hair sculpts are just phenomenal, and that's really highlighted on that Quicksilver figure. He also did a Luke like last year that I got hairpiece sculpted for him from him, and then it was just the same one that he had on his. But he's just an artist when it comes to sculpting hair like that. It just looks so seamless, and I really like the paintwork as well. I know I was trying to do a segue with the paintwork, and I started focusing on the sculpt, but like the paintwork on that leather jacket, especially with all those thin lines, is just super impressive.
Yeah, I think the size of the lines on all the figures we're going to talk about for his stuff, I think, are just super impressive. The You can see that they're all like pretty uniform, and if you like look super close, you can see minor differences in where it's supposed to be symmetrical. But it's just insane that that he would even attempt to paint these lines this thin, but that he's able to pull them off looking just the way they do. I think on the jacket of this one specifically, I like the highlighted raised areas that are supposed to represent the different details and stuff, as well as yeah, that hair sculpt is just incredible. But I think we have a couple other ones of his that the hair sculpts are just downright insane.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, that's why I love the gradient of colors also used on the shirt.
Oh yeah, that's insane with the purple and the blue. That's super awesome. One thing I just noticed by looking at that is he also sculpted the sleeve cuffs too over the hand.
That's
I didn't
nice.
notice that, and I was like, "Wow, okay, that looks that looks really cool." I've never
It's
seen
like just
anybody
such
really
an
do that.
extra detail that makes
He
it just
didn't
that much
have to
better.
do, but he did it, and it looks great. One other figure of his that has some just insane line work is his Flash. I think he called this the Fortnite Flash. I have no idea if Flash is actually in Fortnite because I don't
I
play
think a while
Fortnite.
ago there was.
Okay, yeah, but he called it a Fortnite Flash for some reason. But I think this is based off of the CW Flash. Maybe I'm probably getting that wrong. I'm not a DC fanboy, so I don't really know. But just the paintwork on that torso and the arms is just insane with all the little texturing he has on the sides and the lightning bolts. Just my God, that looks absolutely phenomenal.
Hmm. Totally agree. I think just looking at the lines on this gives me a headache. Just
Yeah, I know. I'm just like sitting there. I was like, I
wondering,
could not do that.
yeah, just wondering how many hours he spent
Exactly. Yeah,
correcting or just getting those lines in there in the first place is just really impressive.
for real. Yeah. I mean, that's nuts, man. Like it's just people like this that are super talented that I think deserve a lot more praise for what they do because it's like it's better than most of what the community does. And it's just like I'm just baffled that some people don't know it exists.
Right.
And we're only halfway through talking about AJ stuff, so we can try to get through the next two a little quicker, but we wanted to talk about his Solid Snake, I think from Metal Gear. And this figure just has just these really cool 3D elements on it that still feel kind of Lego with that minimal yet expressive sculpting on there. He sculpted the collar and the pouches and everything, and I think a little ribs section across the chest. And it's just that minimal sculpting that just makes it a little more detailed than what paintwork would, but it really gives it this unique style to it that I absolutely love.
Yeah, I love the hair sculpt on this one. You can see, like, if you look really close, there's these tiny little lines of hair that are supposed to, like, kind of represent the individual strands.
Oh
I think
yeah,
that's something that you don't usually see. Usually, a lot of people go the kind of like the Lego aesthetic is more of a thicker hair strand, more of like the general shaping of the hair rather than these
yeah.
individual ones. But I've never actually seen someone do this with a hair sculpt, which is what I really like on this, as well as the face likeness is awesome. I love a lot of those details in there.
Yeah, he's great with that. And I noticed that his eye patch is also a sculpted piece as well, which is just really nice, a really nice touch. In the last figure we wanted to talk about from Anon Figs was his Ryu from Mortal Kombat, right?
No,
Yeah,
no, no, Street Fighter.
Street Fighter. My bad, dude. I'm not not a big fan of that kind of stuff, the Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter type stuff. But I knew you like this figure a lot, and one of the things I just want to talk about was the robes that go over the chest are just super thin and super nice looking, and the paintwork is just really clean like usual.
hmm I love the hair sculpt. I don't know. I think this is just from one of the more recent Lego hair sculpts that he's adapted into having that headband on there.
Yeah,
But I really appreciate the small indications of wrinkles. I think a lot of people can overdo that sometimes and make it a little bit too much detail or whatever that kind of drowns out the simple like figures or stuff. But another thing I want to talk about is the toes. A lot of people avoid doing feet on Lego because it is kind of weird to try to get
yeah,
the proportions right or how you want to do that. But I think he made it look natural in a way that
yeah.
um, it just looks like it should look. I don't think it looks weird. A lot of times I'll look at people who paint on toes on Lego figure and be like, oh, I wish they wanted to put those on. But I think he did a great job on these.
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to add about the wrinkles, what you're talking about, is you're saying how some people can like overdo it, and what I think AJ does especially well is he makes them look like natural, because you
Right.
can see some people that are just painting just a crap load of wrinkles all over the place, and it's like clothes don't work that way, and
Right. Yeah.
wrinkles
Yeah.
don't work that way. Where is what AJ was doing looks actually natural, like it's laying on something. So then we can move on to our next guy, which is LQ Customs. He's made I don't know if he's made too much this year. I know he's done a lot of stuff for Boba Lug, but he hasn't. I don't know if he's posted a lot of his individual figures just yet. I could be wrong, but what one project we want to talk about was the Frodo and the Sam from Lord of the Rings that he's working on. I've always really enjoyed the Lord of the Rings series, and I appreciate seeing some customs out there. We haven't really seen a lot of those. I think there's one guy last year that did them. I think his name is Cassimus. I can't exactly remember exactly what the tag is. I can put it up when I'm editing this, but he's got some clean stuff. But that was last year, so we can't really talk about it right
hmm
now. But I really appreciate seeing stuff like this. In Lucas or LQ is really good with his lines and his wrinkles as well. He's got a style where he kind of makes thicker lines, which make his stuff really identifiable. So you can easily just pick out like, oh, that's Lucas's work for sure. And they fit perfectly in his style. And I'm interested to see if he's going to make more Lord of the Rings stuff.
Yeah, I hope he does. And like you're talking about with his style, as we've been going through all these figures, you can really pick out after you see a lot of these people's posts coming up on your feed over, weeks and months, you can really see there's such a difference in styles. Even though a lot of these figures are going to be made by a lot of different people, it's cool to see how they interpret, how they would put, some people would do the coats they're wearing in 3D. Some people are going to do them painted on like he did. I think it's cool to see the different approaches and techniques that people would want to use for each figure. I also really like the face likenesses on these, especially the Sam. I think it
Yeah,
really does look like that the Sean Astin and the Lord of the Rings.
yeah, absolutely. That kind of works as a good segue into some of our next figures, because some of these next guys we want to talk about we can probably call like the kings of likenesses, because
Yep,
these guys are
absolutely.
just super good at doing likenesses. And the first guy we want to talk about was Tossie Figs. Tossie is just like a master at capturing likenesses. And the first figure I think we should talk about is his Rick Grimes from The Walking Dead. this is like the best Rick I've ever seen. Even though, everybody knows on my channel that I was a huge Walking Dead fan, and that's kind of how I got my start. And I stopped doing stuff because the show got awful. And so seeing this really, hit a nerve of like nostalgia,
Hmm.
and I was like, damn, this guy looks absolutely phenomenal. He's got just a great looking face on it, and has a great hair sculpt as well. He's so talented with capturing actors' likenesses just perfectly, and just capturing their hairs perfectly. So I don't know if you had anything else to add about Rick.
Yeah, I just think those two little hair strands in the front are really what make this figure for me,
Yeah,
along with the face. The likeness is. I'm not personally a huge Walking Dead person, but I know what the character looks like,
yeah,
and you can instantly recognize that this is supposed to be Rick Grimes, and the hair sculpt is really what does it for me on this one. I think that like those two strands in the front are so expressive. I don't know if anyone with their figures of Rick have done that. I really like how that's done.
yeah. I do too. I think Tossi's also working on a Negan at some point, and he's kind of making him like a statue figure where he's leaning. I don't think he's finished that yet. I could be wrong, but that's something I'm. If he hasn't, and I've just am forgetting it, I'm really looking forward to seeing that, because I feel like that'd be really
Hmm.
cool. Another figure we want to talk about from Tossi is Theodore, I think is his name, from the movie Her. I'm not familiar with her, but I think that the head and the hair on this figure are just absolutely uncanny, because this is Joaquin Phoenix, isn't it?
Yeah,
Okay.
I've seen her before. It's a great film. I really appreciate the hair sculpt on this. I honestly, for both of these figures, I couldn't tell you what was the base used for these
Yeah.
hair sculpts because they don't even reflect a like something Lego has produced in terms of like, oh, you can tell that they just took a hair sculpt and then manipulated it to get to the point where they want them to look like how they are. But I think this is just incredible the way that the individual like strands. We were talking about earlier about AJ stuff. He did a lot of highly detailed strands with his hair, and I one thing I appreciate about Tossi's is that it's totally different. Where it's more of something you might see Lego make, where it's a little bit of the thicker, it kind of just
Kind of
trying to
cartoony
show
style almost.
right, yeah,
Yeah.
the different the movement of the hair with bigger kind of like how you traditionally sculpt the hair
Right.
with like
Yeah.
actual sculpting. But yeah, also I like the pants how they come up a little bit higher on the waist. It's cool to see different approaches to how people are painting pants.
I also like the 3D pocket that he sculpted on as well.
Yeah, also those cuff links. They're the
Yeah.
cuffs on the arms by the
Yeah.
elbow.
That's awesome. Now we can move on to another very talented painter, which is Ophelia. He's been making just some great stuff so far. I know you have some stuff you want to say about his particular like choice of figures, but I guess we'll focus in on his one of his newer figures, which is the Mr. Miyaki from or
Hmm.
Misaki. I can't remember. I haven't seen Karate Kid in a while.
Yeah, this is something I really like about this figure is the face. I think even if you're not familiar with Karate Kid, you know this is Mr. Miyagi.
Yeah,
Um,
that's it. Yeah, I know I
it's
was saying it wrong.
um, yeah, I think that this is I love the jacket, the outlines, and the paintwork on all of his stuff is really impressive. Also, I think it's awesome how he used that Lego hair, the bald dude's hair,
Yeah,
to
that's awesome.
give the exact kind of hair that he has in the movie. But I really like this figure, and I think the chopsticks are really cool. They're probably just two tiny pieces of wood in that hand, but I really
It's
like
still
that.
cool that he added those. But yeah, like you were saying, I really like the balding hairpiece that he used, and how he kind of just sculpted a little bit on the top to bring it up a little bit. Just that likeness is insane. Just the paintwork on the torso is just absolutely crazy clean. One thing I really like is the little shadows he has underneath the collar, and then underneath the pocket that I think has the pen in it
Hmm.
is just crazy that he even thought to add that.
Yeah, and then before we move on to his second figure, we'll talk about with him. I just want to quickly mention that all of the figures he does, a lot of people you'll see they kind of have a theme on their account. I definitely have like a more of a Star Wars theme. You
Yeah,
can
me too.
go back, yeah, you can go back and kind of look at the catalogs of each customizer, and you can tell, oh, this person's interests are this, and vice versa for everyone else. But with Brickophilia's stuff, you look at his account, and really, it's there's such a variety from where the concepts of the figures he makes come from. I don't even understand how you can have this big of a variety of different things you're making, because you'll see the next figure we're going to talk about is a Rango custom, which is nowhere
Yeah.
near the Karate Kid or even
Yeah,
any of his
right. It's
previous
just like
figures.
it's totally out of left field. When he
Right.
sent us a work in progress picture of this, we're just like, "What? Like that is amazing that he's making that." But it's like it's totally up his alley. But it was just so unique to see. Like this thing is just crazy looking.
Totally agree. I think I've said it multiple times before, but he's definitely my favorite customizer, just because I'm always surprised by his next project. A lot of people, you can really come to expect what they're going to be making, but I never feel like I'm expecting what he's going to be putting out next, and so I really love his stuff.
Yeah, and just the head sculpt on that Rango is just absolutely insane looking. I don't even know what he used as a base for that, but that just looks perfect. Like it looks like one of the molded head pieces that Lego would make,
hmm
like for some creature like like Rango. I know he's a lizard, but like like how they did the 3D with like the big heads, the molded heads for the Simpsons and
Right.
Sesame Street's one of the newer ones, and I'm guessing Looney Tunes. But it's just cool to see that, and I think he's always just working on random stuff all the time because he always posts like work in project progress pictures on his story. You just see stuff in the background, and you're just like, what is he working on? Because everything is just like he's got a figure from like the band Men I Trust in one corner, and he's got Scooby Doo figures in the next corner. It's like, what is going on? But it's just awesome that he's just got such a wide catalog like that.
Yeah, definitely agree. I love the on specifically this Rango. I think the neck is just the Lego neck, and
Yeah,
he's just pulled up the head sculpt he's worked on, so that creates the neck. I don't really think I've ever seen that done on any figure
I didn't.
before.
Yeah, I didn't picture that. That is just the peg on that torso. That's awesome.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, that's a really cool detail. But that kind of concludes, I guess, us just gushing over Brickophelia stuff. We can move on to the next guy, which is Fishy Figs. He's another one of the great guys at capturing likenesses on figures. I know one of the figures, the first one we should talk about is probably the monk from Monk. I've never heard of that show or who this person is, but I was like, that is a really nicely painted face. Are you
hmm
familiar with that at all?
Yeah, I'm actually a pretty big fan of the series. Just kind of like a crime detective drama, but it's more of like a funnier one. I really think this. If you're familiar with like the actor, I'm not actually aware of his name, but looks exactly like his face. As you can, if you browse through his Instagram, you'll see almost every figure he makes, along with Brickophilia, along with Tossie Figs. All of their stuff is going to be really, really good at capturing the likenesses of actors or whatever he's, whether it be like a band or something. But it's impressive when you can take the Lego aesthetic of having no nose, and all you have to work with is eyes, mouth, and a few wrinkles and eyebrows and whatever, and you can still tell that it is the character you're trying to create. Like, it's just impressive to me. I'm not the best at this, so I always really appreciate when someone is.
Yeah, and one thing I'd like to point out is we're focusing on figures from January and February of this year. So this is just stuff that these guys have been making in the past couple months, and they just have just so many other great figures on their pages, and we
hmm
really encourage you guys to go check it out for yourself because odds are we're not showing you something that you might really like if you're not really blown away by any of this stuff. And they just got so much more stuff. So I mean, all of the links to these guys' pages will be down in the description, so you guys can easily just go check them out on Instagram. And I just really encourage you guys to go check them out. I guess we can move on to another one of Fishy's figures, which is capturing likeness as well, which is his Tony Soprano from The Sopranos, right?
hmm
Haven't seen The Sopranos, but I'm familiar with what the dude looks like, and that looks just like him. I really enjoy how he sculpted the the double chin on that to make him look fatter. And he also sculpted the gut as well and extended the legs to make him bigger, which I just think just looks hilarious. But it looks perfect.
I really like the on both of these figures, the last one and this one. There's the rings on the fingers. I've
Yeah,
never seen that done before.
yeah.
I just think it's a cool little detail that brings a lot of expression into an area that's usually left unpainted on minifigs. So I think that's really cool. The line work on this is also great, and I like you're saying, I love that sculpted gut.
Yeah, it's awesome. And then the last figure, I guess, kind of rides along the lines of Brickophilia's Rango, is his Fishy Figs' Pink Panther figures.
Mm.
Kind of took the same route with that, where he sculpted the heads on the Pink Panther, and then the guy with the paintbrush. I'm not exactly sure what that character's name is,
Yeah, neither am
but
I.
yeah, but it just looks great, and I'm glad that he made him because I recognize him from the cartoon. But I just don't know the lore around Pink Panther that much, but it's great to see just unique figures like this and just how creative it is. It's always nice to get a breath of fresh air with creative figures like this, other than just seeing Marvel and Star Wars. I know
Right.
that's hypocritical of me to say since I literally only make Star Wars
Yeah,
stuff.
I have no room to speak as well.
Yeah, yeah. It's just like I'm part of the issue, I guess, that I'm complaining about. But it's like you have people like this that are doing crazy, unique, and creative stuff like that, and I just really enjoy seeing other people be expressive that way.
Yeah, I wanted to quickly go over the head sculpt on this. I think he's posted a few different angles of this.
Yeah, I
Um,
can put them up.
yeah, but the Pink Panther is a 2D character. I'm pretty sure, like in most
Yeah,
of the source material, and I've seen a lot of people try to attempt to translate like 2D characters into a 3D, you know, sculpt, but a lot of times it comes out a little clunky. I think this is like an example of a perfect like recreation. It's just like impressive the angles and also the depth that he used to pull off the sculpt on this. It looks good from every angle, which is very rare when you try to do that with a 2D character. I also like the outlines of the paintwork on the head of this really feature the nice parts of the sculpt. So I really appreciate the sculpt on this.
yeah. It also fits in with the animation style as well, because
Definitely.
back in the day when Pink Panther was a popular cartoon, they had the thick black outlines, and so
Hmm.
that really fits in with that style. I'd like to see more of the 2D animated characters in Lego figure form. I think there's just a lot of room to for customizers to just take a hold of that genre and start making figures. I know I'm gonna make Jared. I know Jared will probably be watching this, and he was working on a Peter Griffin from Family Guy a while ago that I was hoping to see. It
Oh
just
well,
looked
yeah,
ridiculous. Yeah, it's
that should be good.
yeah. Hopefully he finishes that at some point because it's been years at this point. But he was supposed to give that to Dylan to paint, and he never did it. So
Mm.
I'll be fueling that feud a little more with that comment. But I guess we can move on to the next batch of figures. Now, these next two customizers we're going to be talking about, these are projects that they posted like in the past couple days. So it was kind of like last second throwing these in here. But the first one is the crew from Super Bad by Brando Figs, and this is like the only time I've ever seen these figures made into custom Lego figures in this community, and just the faces and the hairs on these guys are just absolutely incredible. I just can't get over how perfect and how just exact those look to the actors.
Yeah, I love the expression on the McLovin figure.
Yeah,
Um,
he looks so just stupid like he is in the movie.
I love, yeah, the mouths on all these. I love that he chose an expression that's not like a blank face.
Yeah,
Um, I
that
think
really
that
helps with likenesses for sure.
I think that the hair sculpts on these really complement that, as well as also the paintwork on all the torsos are just really consistent throughout. Like the style for his stuff as well, you can tell it's his stuff. But I like a lot of this figures are. I like the general paintwork on them.
Yeah, I think he also did just a very minimal gut sculpt on Jonah Hill's character
Yeah, I'm
Seth.
just seeing that now. That's great.
Yeah, it's like you can see the shadow a little bit on the belt, so I think he sculpted just the shirt, honestly, and that just looks like it looks seamless. It's
Right.
just like he looks a little bigger than the other two, like Jonah Hill was in the movie, and it just fits in very nicely with that Lego style. And I love just the wrinkles and that the white outline is super crisp on his shirt. Yeah, just a great group of figures. I was really happy to see those. The only critique I would have is to for McLovin's ID to put a Lego figure there, but I know we were talking about that in the Boba Lug chat
Hmm.
a little bit, so that'd be cool. But other than that, like these guys are just absolutely perfect. All right, the next figure we're going to be talking about is Rorschach by our friend Salacious Customs from Watchmen. He just posted this figure today as we're recording this, so it was a couple hours ago. And we wanted to just quickly cover this guy since we thought it was just absolutely incredible. I haven't seen Watchmen yet, either the movie or the show on HBO Max. Maybe that's where it is. I don't know. I haven't seen any Watchmen material before, but I can acknowledge that this figure just looks awesome, just with the bent leg. I really love the sculpting work on the flowing coat, and the shadowing on the wrinkles just looks awesome.
Yeah, I love the fedora on this. I think it's just the Indiana Jones hat, but it's the brim has been like sanded or cut down, and looks great. Like you're saying, that bent leg. I know a lot of people have done this before, but I always love seeing when people do like an expression with movement in the figure to make it a statue figure. I've never actually attempted it just because it's pretty intimidating, and I've never done one yet. Maybe in the future I'd be more open to doing them just because of the amount of incredible customs I've seen done like this. But it's really expressive, the movement you can see in something that's just a minifig. It's really cool to see that done.
Yeah, absolutely. It was great to just quickly throw that in there because I thought that was really worth showing because it just looks absolutely awesome. That kind of concludes this section of figures we wanted to talk about. So now we kind of wanted to talk into, I guess, talent to watch, or just customizers out there that are like either new, or they've just been vastly improving very recently, or maybe they weren't really on our radar at first, and now they're starting to just get really better, just a lot better at customizing. And that we hope gain some traction here soon with what they're making, and just deserve more people to see their stuff. Um, so the first one we want to talk about was this guy named the Lego Painter. Now I think he joined the community like late last year sometime. So he's only made a couple figures, but the figures he has made are just super clean. And this is his most recent one, which is Buster Scruggs. I've never seen the Ballad of Buster Scruggs before, but like I can still acknowledge that this figure is just super clean. That torso paint job is awesome, and just the 3D legs are just absolutely insane with the pants, and the pockets just look super awesome. I know he's working on a Django as well. He's been posting the hat. He's been working on that guy, but this is just a guy. He's currently my favorite customizer out there, just because like I want to see him grow and do a lot more stuff. I'm really excited to see what he's working on.
One little tiny detail I want to highlight on this is that belt. I think those tiny little details. I don't know if that's like tan or gold, but with the outline of the buckle just are incredible to me. I don't even know if I'd be able to pull something off like that. This person is really underfollowed, so I think this goes for everyone that we're going to talk about in the talent to watch section. Is I encourage everyone to go out, check out their stuff, and leave them a follow, leave them some likes and comments, because their work's incredible, and I think that moving forward they have a lot of potential to inspire new people in the community, and also to bring just amazing customs as they already have been.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with all that. These guys are definitely just some people out there that deserve a lot more recognition for what they're doing, and they can be an inspiration to just like new customizers that are joining in on the community. The next guy I want to talk about is Aussie Figs. I'm not sure exactly how long he's been in the community, but he kind of popped up on my feed a couple months ago, and I started looking at what he was doing. He's just making some great stuff. He's a very talented sculptor, and he's definitely got a style with his sculpts, but it's still very cool to see. It's very unique. And the figure we're looking at here is his Ahsoka from the Clone Wars. So, like I was saying, he definitely has a unique style, but I just think the sculpting work is super clean. I think he's working on Ahsoka from the Mandalorian as well. I think he probably has one of the best headpieces so far. So I can't wait for him to actually post that so you guys can see it, because it's on his story, so I can't show you guys. But it's just something that I'm super excited to see what kind of stuff he's going to be working on here soon.
Yeah, I could totally agree with everything you said. I think this headpiece for this specific Ahsoka, as well as the face, I'm not sure if that's like the actual Lego face, but I think he painted that. If so, and I know that the future Ahsoka he's working on did paint the face for that one.
Yeah.
I love the paint work, and also just his style is a really cool one. I think he's done like a Boba Fett and Pre Vizsla. Really like both of those ones as well. So his sculpts are awesome, and I think moving forward, I'm excited to see what he puts out.
Yeah, absolutely. The next guy we want to talk about is Primo 3859 underscore YT, or we just call him Primo. He's been popping up recently. I know he's been in my talking to me in my DMs a little bit recently, but I really like what he's been doing with a lot of the casts and stuff he's been getting in. I mean, I know he does sculpting work himself, but primarily it seems like he's a painter, and he does a very nice job painting up sculpts to like their fullest potential. Because this is, I believe, Tuminio's Master Chief that he resin printed a little while ago, and so it's great to see someone just paint it and paint in all of the details on it, and it just looks super clean and super awesome.
Yeah, I think it's really cool because not only is this he utilizing Tuminio's sculpt work with this Master Chief, but you can I think on a bunch of the slides he posted for this figure, you can really tell that the torso, the legs, and the arms have all been extended and modified like
Yeah, that's right.
incredibly. He has a bunch of YouTube videos up about this figure and the making of it, which I think are all worth a watch. I love his work so far, and I can't wait to see what he puts out in the future.
Yeah, I think his name's Owen. So shout out to Owen for doing a great job on that. I can't wait to see what else he paints up. I like to see him, uh, focus in on sculpting a little bit more, maybe himself. But I know I know he does it, so I'm not saying he doesn't do it. But
Hmm.
I'd love to see what he can do with that because he's proved himself to be a good painter so far.
Definitely.
So I'd love to see him reach out a little more. And I know he's pretty new, and it's great to see someone pretty new still putting in this much effort. I always see on his story him talking about YouTube videos, and he seems like a very humble and standout guy. So he's awesome. So move on to Old Team 712. This is Oliver. I knew him back in the days of Flickr when that was big. Nate, were you ever on Flickr?
Yeah, it was. It was quite a few years ago. I think there's very few people from those days still making customs, but it's great
Yeah,
to
it
see
feels like
anytime that someone survived the dark ages of their customizing stuff. So
yeah, I know Oliver seemed to like take a break for a little while, and then he came back very recently. So it's nice to see him back making figures, and he definitely hasn't lost his skill when he came back. On these guys, this is Frank Woods and Bowman from Call of Duty Black Ops. I think the first one, and the camo on these guys are just super clean. Especially on that Bowman, like the camo is just super awesome on that green jumpsuit. Also love the minimal look of the 3D parts on here. It's not like overly sculpted, but it's just raised just a little bit to have that effect there on on the vest on Bowman and then on the bandolier on Woods there.
yeah, I also just appreciate that. I don't know if I've ever seen Call of Duty customs made. I just think it's cool. Smaller creators doing stuff that's unique. I hope to see more people doing more unique stuff. I think that's something we have talked a lot about that we're both not really contributing to. But
Yeah,
moving, yeah, moving forward, I'd love to see a lot of people doing more stuff that's not been made yet. So I think it's cool to see.
yeah,
These are both look great, and the faces on them I really like. I appreciate that the jumpsuit is got a lot of cool camo details as well as like the tan highlights of those pouches. I also really like.
right, yeah. Now, speaking of COD customs, I think we had another Call of Duty custom. This was another Frank Woods. This is done by Cave Customs. He made this guy fairly recently, and I wanted to include it on here because I think the likeness on this was really awesome. I also love the look of the grenades on the vest there. I see he did a little bit of 3D work on the pouches there, which just stand out just a little bit. So it's not too overly detailed, and I just think it works really nicely.
Yeah, I think you were talking about that face. That's really probably my favorite part about this figure, as well as the shirt and the color of the shirt. I
Yeah,
think you can see there's like a little bit of shadow that's like brownish color. I think it's really cool detail work right there. But yeah, I really like this custom.
Yeah, honestly, I thought that torso was like the base torso was printed at first, but then as you started saying that, I took a closer look and I was like, yeah, that's actually painted. So
Yeah, it's
that's really
cool.
awesome seeing that. Yeah. Next up, we have Figs. He's just been doing some great stuff recently. He's just one of those guys that just, you can really, me and Nate have talked about this privately before, but you can really pinpoint when someone just goes from being like a decent customizer to actually like start being like really good. And I think Figs or Matthew is just, he's hitting that point like right now, especially. Like you can definitely tell that his figures are just ramping up exponentially in terms of the paintwork and the sculpting on it is just absolutely insane on this on the Anakin and the Obi-Wan from Revenge of the Sith. I know somebody else, I think it was Frosty, did the hair sculpts on these guys, but did a great job with painting them up, then capturing the likenesses and doing all the robe work. Especially, it just looks awesome.
Yeah, something I think is cool is as I was reviewing both these posts, you can see, like you're talking about, when people improve. This is only a year ago. If you look at these posts, the 2020 versions that he did of these compared to the 2021 versions, it's just insane how much improved both these figures are. The likenesses as well as the uh, the Jedi robes. I think you actually posted a tutorial on them, but
Yeah,
um,
I'm not sure if you followed it, but like they look pretty similar to the way I do it, so I wouldn't be surprised. But like that's a pretty general way of doing those, and I think he did a great job with capturing that, and they look really clean.
hmm Yeah, but yeah, I think the coolest part about this is just seeing the growth in this person. And yeah, these hair sculpts are also probably the best hair sculpts I've ever
Yeah,
seen for
yeah,
these
I would
characters.
agree. I think it's always good to see collaboration between customizers too,
Yeah,
like
definitely.
especially like when I'm not saying this about Matthew, but just in general, when somebody might not have like a strong suit, so they reach out to somebody else. I used to do that with Sander a lot. He used to do a lot of sculpt work for me because I didn't want to sculpt helmets and stuff, so he did that all for me. So it's great to see collaboration amongst other customizers to get a best like just the absolute definitive version of a character in Lego form.
Totally agree.
Yeah. So we'll move on to our last figure in this section, which is Aang from Avatar, The Last Airbender by JQL Figs. I know JQL's been in the community for a while, but what I really liked about this figure was the glider. I thought that was just a really unique idea, and I haven't seen a lot of Avatar figures considering how popular the show got this past year. Since it got added to Netflix, so it's really cool to see a new figure out there with such a creative idea with that glider.
Yeah, I was really expecting a lot more. I'm kind of surprised, like you were saying, that there wasn't a lot more Avatar, at least Aang figures out there. But something I appreciate about this figure is those black outlines on the robe, as well as the 3D sculpted arm for that robe part.
Yeah,
The
for the
sash that comes
sleeve.
down is cool as well. But I like those little black indications. It's a little bit more cartoony, which I think is cool.
Yeah, he also did the animated style eyes too, which is pretty cool. Kind of reminiscent of the official Lego figures of this, so it gives it that
Hmm.
cool animated style, which I think is pretty cool. But I think that if you didn't have anything else to add about this section, I think that was kind of closing it off with the, I guess, the talent to watch, or just the people that we
Hmm.
think deserve more recognition for their work out there. That might be, new to the community, smaller customizers out there, or people that are like really starting to hit their stride. That definitely all deserve a follow, or just for you guys to check them out. They definitely all deserve it because they're just all spectacular so far.
Hmm.
So now we can move on to, I guess, a big event, if you can call it that, in the customizing community, which is Boba Lug. Boba Lug was a collaborative account that a lot of customizers joined back, I think, in like November, I think is when it started.
It was quite a while
Um,
ago.
yeah. And so, for those of you who don't know, a lug, or LUG, is a Lego users group, and what Boba Lug is it's a uh, I don't think it's affiliated with Lego just yet, and I think the leader Damien is trying to get it verified here pretty soon. But this is actually like the first lug that has attempted to make a customizer division like ever. So you have like Rebel Lug and Empire Lug that do a lot of Star Wars stuff, but this is like the first one I've seen include customizers in their stuff, because it seems like in the Lego community as a whole, customizers are kind of neglected in terms of being
Hmm.
included with builders. So there's always just like some, I wouldn't say beef, but it seems like there's always a separation of the two.
I feel like
So it was,
a lot of people kind of view us as the character from Toy Story, the Sid character
yeah,
who
the one that
just destroys
destroys
their
all of the
toys.
toys that you love.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I understand it, and I don't like have any animosity towards people that view customs as wrecking stuff, but like I guess they just don't understand that it's just a creative outlet, and
Hmm.
Lego is just the medium for people to
Right.
create figures like this. So it wouldn't, none of us are viewing it as like, oh, I'm destroying a figure. It's like I'm just using Lego as a base to do something cool. So, but what Boba Lug is it was a collaborative uh, Lego users group that had builders primarily, and then they added customizers to it in the past couple months. And the first collaboration that we did was we did all of these different versions of Boba Fett, and I feel like finding different versions of Boba Fett is insanely hard because he's only in a couple pieces of media, and thankfully, thankfully he came up in Mandalorian, so you got a few more variations in there, and so everybody seemed to make a unique version. I think we didn't have any duplicates. I think there might have been a couple Cloud City versions out there
Hmm.
from episode 5, but I think the last one was yours that you did for the giveaway. But then
Yeah, and
it
that
was like
was
the first one and the last one were the Empire Strikes Back one. But like
hmm
it was amazing that everyone in between did different things.
yeah, I totally agree. I really liked seeing the variety of, like you're talking about, the different suits and also techniques. I think for yours, you did the classic
Yeah,
Boba helmet, which was really cool to see, and also the style for the painting, which was awesome. But a lot of people did different like techniques as well as like paint color schemes for them. I think we're gonna mention our favorites. If you want to talk about your top three, and I'll talk about my top three.
yeah, sure, yeah. So I mean, it's hard to choose between all of these because all of them just look so great, and every single one of them is, like you were saying, is very unique from the next. But I think my favorite has to be the McQuarrie concept Boba Fett by Benson Bone. That thing is just, it stands out amongst the others as being super different, because a lot of what people did is they did the normal style Boba helmet, and the green armor and everything, and then he just did this version that just looks unique. It doesn't even really look like Boba Fett, honestly, and that's because it's a concept. And one of the things that's just so creative and so innovative with this figure is the fact that you can take that plate on the stomach and have a Lego spring rocket attached in there, and you can actually flick it out. So I think we're calling it the tummy rocket, and that was just such a cool feature to have in that figure. And that is based off of the Hasbro Macquarie concept Boba Fett that they released. I don't know, like 2008 or something like that. I can't exactly remember, but it was a feature on an action figure that I like jokingly mentioned to Benson Bone about it, and he put it on the figure, and I was like, damn, that is just super crazy that he was able to include that.
Yeah, it kind of hurts my brain to think about how he even pulled that off.
Yeah, it's
Um,
like it's like he
it's impressive that it works. It's more impressive that he attempted it.
Yeah, really. Like it would have been funny if he did that whole effort of putting that in there, and then like the spring broke or something, he couldn't
Right.
get it to work. But it's great that he was able to pull that off, and it's just fantastic. The next one I want to talk about was the prototype Boba Fett by Salacious Customs. He used your armor set for this, and it's just really cool seeing that white paintwork like what Benson did. Um, Working with white paint is extremely hard. I'm sure every customizer knows it. It's really hard to find a good white color out there, and what Salacious or Jacob did here was just phenomenal work with that. He was able to get it super clean looking. There's not any blemishes in the paint, which is hard to get with white, and I just think that the figure looks very clean, and it just really makes your resin printed armor set really stand out.
Yeah, I think that also he took the time to, which a lot of people did in this group, but he took the time to sand down the parts just so, like you were saying, that it doesn't show up like with any print lines or whatever. And I think white paint in specific is really hard to work with, so it's really nice to see how clean this one came out.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Then the last one I wanted to talk about was the Clone Wars Boba Fett by Figs. He did the version of Boba where he's not like in any Mandalorian armor. He's using Django's pistols. Can't remember exactly what season that was from, but it was just super cool seeing that version out there with a sculpted helmet and just the really nice colors on that. I think the grays he mixed were really awesome. How he kind of roughed it up a little bit to make it look a little dirty. Just looks really cool.
Yeah, that helmet's super awesome to me. It really stands out because it's I think it's completely sculpted. I don't know what the base is, but it's really cool to see that he attempted something like that. I love the paintwork on the helmet. It really brings out the sculpt and makes it look good. But transitioning to my favorites, two of them are also what Aaron just mentioned was the Macquarie concept by Benson, and then also the prototype by Salacious Customs. So both of those are in my top picks. There's a lot of other ones that I really enjoy, but my absolute favorite from this entire collaboration has definitely got to be the Mythos Boba by Hoodie Studios. We talked about him earlier, but I think this is a great example again of just the paintwork quality he's able to accomplish, as
Yeah.
well as that the robe on this guy is made out of cloth, and I think he's like dyed the cloth or something. But um, this battle damage on this guy, as well as the photo like accompanying this figure in the post, is just awesome. Just all around, really impressive figure.
Yeah, it's definitely some of the best battle damage I've ever seen on a Lego figure before. And when I saw it, I was like, "Holy crap, that looks awesome!" I was, asking Hoodie in the group chat about like how he did it, and he used like different kinds of washes on that, and used I think a Rust-Oleum metallic silver or something that was used for like furniture or something on it, just to
Wow.
make it look super shiny and everything. So, it's just really cool to see that. And I think that's one of his best paint jobs he's done. And like you're saying, the robes are really cool too, because it's not like the robes or the cloth that people usually use on Lego figures, which is very starchy, very it doesn't form well at all. Like it's very
Hmm.
very it wants to stay flat or whatever. It's hard to shape around naturally. And I don't know what kind Griff used for that Boba, but it just looks like it's laying very nicely. It looks like it's probably soft and easy to manipulate. And it's just overall just a fantastic figure. And I'm glad you picked it because that was one I was really wanting to talk about.
Hmm.
But yeah, in terms of the Boba Lug collab, if you guys want to check out all of the figures, we'll have a link to the Boba Lug post down in the description, so you guys can check out all of these figures individually and check out all of the different artists that made these figures. They just all look fantastic. I'm sure a lot of people got fed up with seeing custom Boba Fett's for like 2 months straight, but it was great participating in the first collab for Boba Lug. And I'm just really looking forward to the next collaboration, which is going to be a lot more unique because I think everybody's going to be doing something a little different. So it's not going to be the same iteration of a character over and over again. That was just a first time thing because Boba Fett for Boba Lug. It makes sense, right?
Yeah, I think it's really, you were mentioning this when we started talking about the Boba Lug in general. I think it's really cool to see. This is really the first time like a lug has recognized customizers, and I hope that moving forward more lugs adopt that mentality, and more just Lego users in general will have a more of a appreciation, or at least a tolerance for
Yeah,
customizers.
yeah, baby steps, right? Moving
Right,
to the
right, right.
tolerance first. I feel like, but yeah, I mean, it was great to have somebody actually reach out and be like, hey, do you want to be a part of this? You know, this lug and work together with other customizers. Is it was great to be considered for that. And yeah, I'm just really excited to see where the lug goes from here, and I hope we're able to get it verified with Lego so it can actually become an official lug. That'd just be absolutely phenomenal. It'd be great to have Lego acknowledge the custom aspect of it too. They'd be
Hmm.
like, "Oh yeah, here's these people that paint on our Legos."
I think the closest we ever come to that is a while ago. If you remember, they put out that wooden minifigure
Yeah, I
where they
remember that.
actually encouraged people to like paint it up and do a lot of different things to it. But after that, it kind of, there was no really mention or kind of suggestion that that was kosher with Lego. But
Yeah, they kind of ragged on customizers a little bit in the Lego movie, I think, because they had the
right,
whole like gluing and cutting with X-Acto knives. I was sitting there feeling offended by it. I was like, "Oh, great, they're calling everybody out." I mean, they're aware of it, which is I
right,
think funny. But yeah, like I was saying, I just hope it leads to an acceptance of custom Lego figures, because there's people out there that just look at that a custom Lego figure and be like, "Oh, you ruined it," and they can't like acknowledge the actual like talent that went into making figures like that.
yeah. I think it's hard to kind of wrap my mind around when, if you look at like I was talking about earlier, the tabletop games community, especially with painting like miniature figures, is really accepted in terms of like artistry or just hobbies in general. But
Yeah,
when it comes to painting a minifigure, it's a no go on that. So, but
right.
baby steps.
Yeah, baby steps. We'll get there one day. All right, well, that kind of wraps up what we wanted to talk about with Boba Lug. Again, it was just an honor to be a part of something special like that, and we're both excited to contribute in future collaborations. But uh, I guess we didn't even touch on what we made for the collab.
Right.
So I don't know if you want to talk about what you did first.
Yeah, the first I ended up making two. The last one wasn't really technically a part of the collaboration, but I guess it kind of fits in. But the first one was a Kenner Boba. It's kind of in the style of the first like action figure made for Boba Fett back in the 70s or 80s. And it's just, I based it actually on the Black Series and Sideshow Customs, or Sideshow Figures Boba Fett or
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like the Kenner, just a paint scheme. But the reason I did that is because if you look at the actual Kenner Boba Fett, there's just not a lot of detail or work in there, which is
right.
kind of the point of it. Is like, looking back, it's just super simple. So I was gonna do that at first, but then I ended up going with a little bit more detail, just kind of borrowing the paint scheme from that figure and then applying it to like a standard Boba Fett uh, cast or printed cast of my armor set. But second one was just another Strikes Back Boba, nothing super special. But I mainly did that because they had reached out and asked me to do a giveaway with them, and I was like, yeah, sure, that'll be awesome. So that's where that figure kind of came from. Wouldn't have been made if it wasn't for that. But those are my contributions to the collaboration.
Yeah, I also wanted to point out that you probably had a huge impact on this collaboration with the release of a lot of your resin printed parts. Like a good majority of these figures at least use some form of your parts on it. And it's great to see several people do like custom jobs on it, like Tristan or Custom Brick Builder did the cool Viking Boba Fett, where he kind of modified the helmet a little bit,
Hmm.
which just looks pretty cool. And everybody had a unique paint job on it, so it definitely each one has like a different style to it, which is really awesome. But yeah, you definitely had a huge impact that way.
Well, yeah, thanks. Glad I could
Yeah,
help everyone out with that. But it was really awesome to see everyone's take on the different armor pieces. So
right. Yeah. And then I guess what I made for the collab was the classic style holiday special Boba Fett. I meant to post a separate video about that, but I just kind of forgot about it because it was just sitting down in my studio for a while. But I did that in the style of the classic Cloud City Boba Fett from like 2003 or something like that, or 2002. I can't remember when that set came out, but I wanted to do in that style where it had the a little bit more painted detail on the legs and on the arms, but still a very very simple style of painting, which is something I wanted to do because I was getting sick of sculpting and doing detailed paint jobs and working with weathering and stuff. I was like, let me just do something simple. And the most work that was put into this guy was to separate the helmet from the jetpack, so that way you could actually move the helmet around instead of it being locked onto the jetpack, which I thought was a pretty fun idea. And I was surprised that nobody else did a classic style figure for that the whole collab. I thought more people would, but I
Hmm.
guess I was the only one.
Yeah, I think your figure's awesome. Just you were just barely talking about how you separated the jetpack from the helmet, and something it's since I was a kid and I had the original Boba Fett pieces, something I've wanted to do since then. So it was cool to see you actually doing it. I don't know if I've ever seen someone do that yet, but it's really awesome.
Yeah, it's definitely something I've been wanting to do. I got some people telling me I ruined a very expensive part by doing that, and I was like, "Bro, I bought this piece for $4 off of Bricklink. What are you talking about?"
Right.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that kind of wraps up what we wanted to talk about with Boba Lug. We can move on to kind of like what we're working on real quick, just to give some work in progress updates of what things we have in the works. So, I guess I can start off with what I'm doing. I know I posted a video a couple weeks ago highlighting some sculpts I was working on, and all of those have been finished. I did an Ahsoka headpiece and some lightsabers from The Mandalorian. I did a Bo-Katan from The Mandalorian, and I did a Boba Fett helmet from, I guess, The Mandalorian as well. You could say that. So
Seems to
working
be a
on a
theme.
yeah, it seems to be a theme, right? And yeah, it's just all these sculpts that I've been working on over the past couple weeks, and I finally sent them out, and they're in the process of getting molded and getting casted. So hopefully, I should get those back here decently soon, so then I can start painting them up and finally finish up those figures because I just want to get those done so I can move on to other stuff. One of the other things I'm working on is surprisingly not a Star Wars figure, but it's a figure from the video game Destiny. It's Cade 6, the Hunter Vanguard. I've been wanting to make him for a while now. I started getting into Destiny again a lot, and I was like, okay, I kind of want to make some figures from this, so I thought I'd make him since he's probably the best character to grace that game. Kind of the only guy with any sort of character in the game, to be honest. But yeah, he's been fun so far. I've only gotten the sculpt done, so now I just got to paint it this weekend. Hopefully, I can crank that out. But he's been a fun character to tackle. Something different, something not Star Wars. That's good to work on. So,
Yeah,
what are you working on?
all those are looking awesome. I'm
Well, thank you.
especially super psyched for that. I think it's Cade 6. You said right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that looks great so far, and I'm excited to see. Hopefully, some more Destiny figures. I think it'd be cool if you could do that in the future. But
yeah. I was hoping to get the rest of the Vanguard, like Zavala and Ikora, done. And then I wanted to do some of the other kind of side characters, like Osiris and Saint 14, which is all just some really cool looking character designs, and they're all super different. And so it's something that I think would be really awesome to make some cool looking characters like that. Destiny's
well,
got just such a great customization and great design scheme,
right.
and it's just sad that the game's kind of like tainted in some people's eyes because it's a grind fest. Like, let's be real. I know you've played it a little bit, but
Hmm.
like it's very grindy, very repetitive. But like I enjoy it because I like making my dude look cool.
Right, right, right. Yeah, all those names that you kind of ran through, I'm not familiar with too many of them, but I'm sure they're gonna look awesome. And this one you have so far is looking great. So
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
yeah.
So, what are you working on?
Well, yeah. So moving on to some of my stuff, I've got a lot of projects coming down the line. First off, a lot of people have seen a few of my Noble Team stuff I've been working on, and I've run into a few roadblocks. Mainly, it's just time as an issue, but moving forward, I'm looking to release hopefully the rest of the armor sets here by the end of this month or maybe early next month. But that's probably my number one priority. Priority number two for me would probably be I'm putting out a phase two clone armor set. I've been working with a designer on this, so it's not designed by me, but it's heavily influenced by my direction. He'll message me back and forth, and I'll try to have him tweak some things until it's to my liking. So it's a big burden lifted off my shoulder that I don't have to be designing too many things right now because I do have projects that I'm also working on. So it's nice to be able to get multiple things done at the same time. But yeah, I'll probably have that out early next month at some point. But yeah, excited to see what people can do with that. As I've seen people use the Mandalorian armor I put out for a lot of different creative projects. I'm excited to see this more 3D clone armor. I know there's a lot of options out there on the market currently, but not a lot with like visors that you could actually paint inside of.
Yeah.
Most of them are for decals, but yeah. So I'm excited to see what people do with that, and then also smaller project, not too prominent. It's just more of just a passion project. Is I'm working on getting some minifig scale Bionicle stuff done and printed for people to buy. But that's more of just when I have time, I get to it, but not one of my main things I'm working on. But that's kind of everything I've got in the works right now.
Yeah, I wanted to comment about that clone armor. I think it's great that you did the indented visor because I've painted a lot of clone helmets in my days, and that is the hardest part about doing
Hmm.
that is just getting a symmetrical looking visor. I think what you have in this work in progress picture looks very nice so far. And it's just going to make painting that stuff so much easier with just the little indent there. So it's going to be awesome. I think the sizing of that helmet looks great. I think you said you were guiding your designer a little bit with your direction on different things to change on that. So it's good that you're able to change it around to your standards, which is awesome. I think the breathers on that look absolutely insane. And I know you were talking about how there's a lot of different Phase 2 helmets out on the market right now. I know Clone Army Customs just did their release of the realistic helmets and their prints. Then AV, like literally just released. I got mine in today of
Hmm.
his new injection molded helmets. And so there's just such a variety out there to choose from. So there's like something for everybody.
Right.
So I know your stuff is probably more tailored towards like the painters. So, it's not going to be too decal friendly. I mean, you probably could get somebody to design decals for that pretty easily, um, which might be an avenue you could explore. But it's just going to be great to see what people do with all these choices and how they make figures with those.
Yeah, I actually picked up some. Traditionally, I print with like gray resin, but I picked up some white resin, so
That's
it'd
going to be
be,
great.
yeah, a lot
That's
easier
going to
on.
help so much.
Right, right. Not a lot of people are gonna have to do a lot of the paint work. Maybe a little bit, but
Yeah, I know
not
you
too
probably want
much in
like a
terms of like,
base coat of white, but it's going to be a lot easier just to paint
yeah.
a thin white coat over that, just to like seep in all of the little line marks if you don't sand it all
Hmm.
completely. But yeah, having that white resin is just going to be so much better.
Yeah. So that's something I'm excited about with this armor set in specific.
Yeah, well, that's looking great. I'm sure that's going to be a hot item that's going to be gracing the community here pretty soon. Are you working on now? That looks like an animated helmet. Are you working on like a realistic style too, or is that
Yep,
the
I'm
realistic?
gonna be doing both. This is actually the one that the that will be being used. It's outdated at this point. There's a lot of updates, and maybe I'll just have you put in some other of the
Yeah,
more
I can
updated
put
ones.
in.
But
Yeah.
this is the animated style, and I have some more recent photos of better like renders of them, and
Okay.
I'm really excited. I think that it's gonna be really cool moving forward. The rest of the armor is also gonna be available, so that should be exciting.
Yeah, I mean that's looking great so far, and like I was saying, I just can't wait to see what some people do with that. And I'm looking forward to picking up a couple sets of that because that's going to be something really really awesome to paint up. And I'm looking forward to not having to paint a visor on that.
Right.
Now, do you plan on doing like a Phase 1 version of that, like a Rex style with the Phase 1 visor on a Phase 2 helmet?
Yeah, definitely gonna be doing the Rex helmet as in terms of Phase One clones in general. Well, I guess I'll see how well this set does.
Okay,
If it's
yeah.
a lot of people are liking it and I get a lot of requests, I'll probably end up making it. But I'll probably just play it by ear and see how that goes.
Okay, cool. Well, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. You're always seems like you're working on something really cool every single time you send something in the group chat.
Hmm.
So that's I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, I mean, I guess that kind of wraps up what we're working on. So on Instagram last night, or I guess the night before when this goes up, we put out on our stories for people to ask us some questions that we can answer real quick. We'll be doing this for every single podcast, just a short little Q&A of the most asked questions or things that could spark some conversation, especially if we have like a guest or something, so we can tailor stuff towards them. But these are more general, so we've got 5 questions to answer here. Um, so, which one we want to start with? Nate, you got a preference?
We could just go back and forth. You can do one, I'll do one, and go from there.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll start off with what is the best advice for beginners who are considering the hobby? And this was asked by several different people, but the one I specifically chose was from Dark Shadow Creations 333. Saw some other people like ask iterations of this question, asking more in relation to like how can you not scare people off from joining the hobby or things like that. So,
Hmm.
um, in terms of the best advice for beginners, what would you say, Nate?
I mean, speaking from my experience, I've been doing this for, I guess, upwards of 12 years now.
Yeah,
Um,
jeez, it's been a while.
yeah, I think like probably like the best advice for absolute beginners is just to make sure you just want to do it because you want to do it, not for followers or not for anything. In the beginning days of Flickr, it wasn't even really to have followers. I think that's a kind of a big push today, is people want to grow their accounts and stuff. But back in the day, it was really just to show your work off and see other people. But I think it's changed going forward. I think the advice I would give is just to have the perspective of just to keep making figures regardless of your followers or how many likes or comments or whatever you're getting, and you're gonna improve over time. But just to stick with it, not give up too early if you don't see progress. It took me like a good like 5-6 years before I started even moving on to paintwork instead of just using Sharpies and stuff. But quality improves over time, and I think the more you make, the better you'll improve, and the more you work with other people and reach out, get advice, or watch tutorials. I know both of us have a few tutorials
Yeah.
about sculpting or painting or whatnot. So just use your resources and don't get scared. It's not super intimidating. Do something that you're comfortable with at first, but it's also challenging, and definitely to stick with it. I think the community always improves the more it grows. So that's probably my advice on that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you said there. I think doing it for you is like the primary thing you need to do. You're supposed to be doing it because it's a hobby that you enjoy, that you love, and you're the one getting enjoyment out of it. It's supposed to be a creative outlet, and just the perks of like getting followers or likes. Yeah, that can be great, but like ultimately you got to be happy with what you're doing, and that's the most important thing I can say is just focus on yourself. Do what you want to do. Don't let trends dictate what you want to make. Just do whatever you want to do. I think what you said with using resources is great to help you improve, and it'll give you some tips and ways to get started in the customizing community. Just a place to start with, and I think interacting with the community is also a great idea to
Hmm.
meet some people that are maybe in the same spot as you, so you guys can bounce ideas off of each other. That's how I started. I started customizing. It's probably the same time as you, back in like 2009, 2010,
Right.
something like that, and um, just interacting with the community is like all I really wanted, was just to talk to people. And so, that's what I got out of it. And that's where I'm at now. I've made, some of my best friends in the whole world are people that I've met through this community. And so it's great to just, interact with people and bounce ideas off. And I think the biggest thing is also criticism too. If you're, friends with people that are like not just yes men, and that'll tell you exactly how they're feeling about a figure. Like I'll send a figure, I'll be like, is this good? And my friends would be like, no, that's garbage. You need to change it. And I'd be like, okay, thanks. Like I ultimately appreciate that, but like getting that critique is very good. So to wrap it up, definitely, meet some people that are in the same spot as you, or that can give you good advice. I try to answer DMs as much as I can, which I'm sure you do, to help people get on their feet, or if they're asking questions about how to get started.
Definitely.
So just reach out to like anybody that you find inspirational or whatever, and that you think can help you out get started, because everybody in this community is pretty nice and pretty
Hmm.
helpful, because we paint Legos. What do you expect? Like, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Moving on to a question I was asked. This is by Carpet Banana. Interesting username.
Yeah.
But his question is opinions on customs versus printed. And this is like in regards to like figures you can buy. And I know there's a lot of people who do um, they'll design a custom template for a figure and then print it out and you can purchase it, versus painted figures. And to start off, like this question is like kind of comparing two things that aren't really comparable. But I guess it's more of just talking about in general, like what I would like to see posted by people. And my like personal opinion on this is I'll always appreciate a custom that someone has spent a lot more like dedicated hours on. You can tell it's more of a passion project rather than a product from someone. Um, that being said, when it comes to printed figures, there's two types of printing. There's pad printing and UV printing. And in general, I think you're going to see higher quality figures when it comes to pad printing. Unfortunately, because of the expensive nature of pad printing, there's not a lot of people doing it. But just to quickly sum up my take on that question is I will always prefer painted customs. So I don't think they're going anywhere anytime soon. But that's kind of my take. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, like what you're saying, you can definitely see people put a lot of work into like custom painted and sculpted figures. and that's because people are making them for, it's going to be one of one basically.
Hmm.
Whereas with printed stuff, it's usually for mass production. Now I've got a lot of printed figures, and they're great to have just to have out on display because obviously a lot of love and care went into making those.
Right.
But it's always nice to just look at something that's not like factory made and be like, yeah, that's great looking. Like I can tell the effort put into that. So you said, I'd prefer custom painted and custom sculpted stuff usually over printed. But there's not really a comparison between the two. I don't think that you can be like one is better than the other because they're in two
Right.
different categories basically. Now, if you're
Great things
talking
in
like
both.
printed versus decaled, I feel like that's more of a fair comparison. But
Hmm.
you both definitely have their perks in terms of custom painted and custom printed. But for another question, if we didn't have anything to add to that, is asked by Primo or Owen. He said, "What is your worst custom you've ever made, and what is the best one you've ever made?" So, what do you think?
You want me to go first on this one?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think like in terms of actual quality, obviously it's going to be the worst custom is probably like your earliest customs. Occasionally like I'll make a figure that I'm like, I'm not really a big fan of that one, but in terms of best customs, I hope that it's each new custom I make will be my best custom. That being said, there are a few standout figures I've made in the past. Being, I think I made a Drive figure from the movie Drive.
Yeah,
I think that one stands out as still one of my favorites. And there was a Blade Runner 2049 figure I made quite a while ago. Those are
yeah.
really
The
old
K. Did you
posts
make
on
a
my
K?
Instagram, but those are some of my favorites just because something we've been repeating throughout this whole podcast is just that they're just both unique figures that there's not a lot of figures made of. So those are probably my favorites. But yeah, I don't know if I have like a standout like worst figure, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the last year, I guess I can just stick with that since I feel like a lot of my stuff was consistent last year, and it's just easier for me to pinpoint back that far than think all the way back because I made
Hmm.
some awful stuff. Like my
Yeah.
Groot was the worst thing I've ever made, like totally. But in terms of like recent stuff, I feel like the worst one I made was uh probably the Yoda that I did, like for Clone Wars last year.
I don't
That was
actually remember that one.
yeah, I used a game piece figure as a base, and then Jared Fig sculpted the head like a year beforehand. So like it was still kind of eh. Whereas now I'm sure he could do one that's a lot better. But like
Hmm.
it looks small, and a lot of people did not like it. A lot of people were just like, "This is awful. This is ugly." And I was like, "It's to me, I thought it was like fine. Like it's not my greatest thing, but a lot of people hated it, and then that kind of made me like look at it and be like, yeah, I don't really like this a lot anymore." But I have ideas to make one that's a little better than that. I wanted to try to change the size so it's a little bigger than it's like going to be in between that game piece size and like a minifig like with short legs or something like that. So it's going to be like
Hmm.
in between the two. So that's definitely the worst one I've made in recent memory. And in terms of like the best figure, I would want it to be the the most recent thing I'm working on, but um I think the General Grievous I did was probably like the like most work I've put into a figure.
Yeah, that
But
one's super impressive.
yeah, and I'm super excited to get casts out for that finally at some point this year. But that was a lot of work to do. But I know a lot of people say that that's probably my favorite figure that I've done. But the past like year, I think I really like my pre Vizsla that I did from the Clone Wars. I just
Hmm.
really love the paint and the sculpt on that one. I think that that's a figure that I've been sitting on wanting to do for a couple of years, and so it was just kind of like a passion project at that point. So that's probably my favorite.
Well, one more question that I was asked is someone. This is by Brickboy501. How do you accurately mix colors to get a final product? And this is a question I get like a ton. Is people will be DMing me. Maybe they're beginner customizers or just not really comfortable with painting in general. They'll ask me, "Oh, what colors did you use on this? What colors did you choose for that one or whatever?" And a lot of times I can give them a straight up answer and be like, "This is the specific paint I use," and all my paint is apple barrel paints. I've never tried Citadel yet, but I'm
It's
sure
worth it. It's worth
yeah,
it.
I'm sure it's coming for me. But um, I think a big tip that I could try and say is learn to only use red, red, yellow, blue, black, white when you're starting out. and try to match the colors to your best ability. If you can't, then just pick up some. Apple Barrel has a huge variety of different shades, colors, and tones that will be able to be used really easily, and they're also really cheap, which is the nice thing. But I guess to try to experiment with mixing where you're comfortable with. If you're find a shade that is close to an apple barrel shade, maybe add a little bit, or Citadel paints, whatever you're using, maybe add a little bit of black or white or whatever you need to get it to the place that you're wanting. But I feel like over the years, it's just kind of naturally come to me. I've improved over time being able to match paint colors better. But that is a question I get pretty frequently.
Yeah,
And I
it's
think that,
definitely
yeah, I
okay.
think the biggest answer I can give to that is just to try your best and keep experimenting. So,
Yeah, it's definitely something that I'm asked very frequently as well. Is like, oh, what color did you use for this? And most of the time, it's like, dude, I have no idea because I mixed this color
right.
so long ago. Like, and I've got so many different shades of like grays and blues and reds that I've
Hmm.
mixed. One thing I like doing is and it's not necessarily about the color, but it's about the finish. I like mixing a gloss and a matte color together. I don't know if that does something on the molecular scale where it might weaken the paint in some way, but it gives like a semi gloss or satin type finish, which I like because it's
Hmm.
not super shiny, and it's not dull looking. So that's one thing I like doing, but and watering paints is also a good idea to thin it down just a little bit if you're using
Definitely,
gloss,
definitely.
especially. But how I started mixing colors is my mom was a art major when she went to college. So whenever I needed a color, I'd be like, "What colors do I mix for this?" And so she would tell me which colors I should probably mix or add to it or whatever. So it's kind of something you have to develop like an eye for. You have to like look at color and be like, okay, that's got like a hint of green in there or something like that. So it's something that you got to experiment with, like what you were saying, where you can start off with some base colors and just work your way into like figuring out, okay, what colors go into this specific shade of this color that I want.
Hmm.
So like, yeah, that I can just repeat what you were saying basically is you got to experiment yourself and you got to kind of play with it on your own because like sometimes for colors I can be like I mixed like half flesh color and half nutmeg brown to get like a skin cheekbone tone color, whatever you want to call it. And like I could usually say stuff like that, but most of the time I just can't answer because I'm just like I don't know. Like I just mess around with paint a lot of the time where I just throw in paint till I get the color I want,
Right.
and it's just something you got to play with. And then the last question I had was asked by Hoodie Studios, which is more of I guess a Lego related question. It's pretty relevant to what Lego as a brand is doing right now because they're doing that anniversary set, I think, where they have people vote on specific themes, and they'll make a set out of the highest voted one. And what Hoodie asked was, what theme would you wish Lego would revive? And I'll let you start with what you're looking for Lego to make.
Yeah, I think my childhood, I was really a big fan of the adventurers theme. A lot of the themes that I really enjoyed were the themes that weren't connected to anything previously.
Lego
I think
Originals.
I think that's something I also appreciate about Pixar is that when they'll make movies that are just totally and completely original. I think Lego's direction moving forward is more of a licensed theme approach where they kind of try to piggyback off the Marvel movies or Star Wars films and whatnot, and Harry Potter and DC and stuff. So I don't see a huge amount of original themes being made, which is kind of disappointing and kind of sad to see. But something I'd love to see them bring back is adventurers. I know they're doing that new vote for. It's either going to be Classic Space, Castle, Bionicle, or can't actually remember the third one, but Pirates maybe. But
Yeah, I think it was Pirates. Yep.
yeah, I hope that we see more projects like that moving forward. I think there's totally a market for stuff like that, but I don't know. I think it's pretty depressing on the Lego shelves when you don't see too many options for non-licensed products by Lego, which is sometimes my favorite stuff. Other than adventurers, I'd probably say some of the other space themes from like the '90s and early 2000s are
Yeah, like
great. I
Blacktron and
really
stuff like that.
yeah, I really enjoy some of that stuff as well as um, just I think Pirates is great. I've always had a liking for that. I don't really know why. I'm not even a big Pirates person, but I really love the Lego Pirates theme. So I don't know, just some more of
Yeah.
those ambiguous themes where they don't really have a narrative structure like a Ninjago or others, or Nexo Knights or all those other stuff they've tried, but more of just um, it's the aesthetic speaks for itself type theme where
Yeah.
kind of calling back to the early days of Lego is what I really am interested in.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. The Lego Originals is something I really enjoy because growing up, those are the sets that I was like wanting to build. I'd look at pictures of them on brick shelf or something like that, and I'd be like, "Wow, I
Hmm.
want that set," but it'd be like it'd be retired by that point. And I was always a sucker for classic space, as a lot of people are. Just love that aesthetic of the the light grays, blues, and the trans yellows. That's something that I hope that they bring back at some point. They did it for the Lego movie like briefly, but I want to see more of it. I want to see like a whole line of it or something. I think Space Police was a really good like recent
Hmm.
Lego original that I think would be really successful now. I'd love to see them evolve that line a little bit.
Yeah.
And I also really liked I think it was Alpha Team back in like the early 2000s. They did
Yeah, that was
a
a
line.
really classic one.
Yeah, and they did the one I'm thinking about is where they had a whole bunch of vehicles that would like transform into different vehicles. So I had one where it was like a ski, and you could like move the cockpit of the ski, twist it around, and flip up the actual ski parts to be a helicopter
Yeah,
blades.
I actually
And
I know exactly the
yeah,
set you're talking about.
yeah, and that was like one of my first Lego sets, and I was like, I'd love to see stuff like that where it's got a gimmick like that or something that's it's like recognizable and it's not cheesy. And then another one I'd love to see again would be Mars Mission.
Mm.
Absolutely love that line.
Yeah, me and my brother really like bonded over the Mars mission sets when we were younger. I know there was an online game. It's like a RTS. I don't know if you've ever played that, but it was on the old Lego.com used to be something I really visited.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, very often. There's a lot of like great HTML games on there, and yeah, I love the Mars mission theme.
Yeah, so I think we got a pretty solid list of classic themes and stuff we'd like to see there.
Stuff that'll
Um,
never be made.
yeah, the stuff that will never ever be made unless Lego actually listens to this, which they probably will never do. And but yeah, all that stuff would just be absolutely great. But part of me is glad that they haven't done it yet because I'd be broke as hell if
That's
they
yeah,
came out
that's
with all
true.
that stuff. I'd be like, shit, I got to get a bigger room. But anyway, I think that kind of wraps up the Q&A. We I know we both got a lot of questions, and so with the Q&As we kind of just want to pick out a few questions here or there that really spark our interest and are easy stuff to talk about rather than just simple like, oh, what paint do you use or things like that. Like those are questions I'd still love to answer, but maybe not in like a podcast format since it's not really applicable in terms of like discussion. But when we have guests and stuff on here, we would like to have questions that are like tailored to them, maybe, so that way we can talk about where they started or just what their inspirations are. I'm sure we'll get into all of that in future episodes, but for now, in terms of like guests, we'd love for you guys to comment down below who you'd like to see on here when we continue this. I know we got a lot. Me and Nate are friends with a lot of the people in the community, so we can definitely pull some guys in here to get like one or two guests per episode, so we can get some different perspectives and talk about different projects. So it's not just me and Nate just talking about Lego figures the whole time. So that way we can get more discussion across other people in the community. And then also in terms of like technical stuff with the podcast, if you guys have any suggestions for stuff you'd like to see us do. I know this is the first episode, so it's going to be a little rough around the edges, so got to work out the kinks and get into the groove of actually getting used to doing this stuff again, because it's been a while since I've done a podcast. And Nate, this is your first one, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so it's going to be stuff that we have a learning curve for, and I hope we can develop a style of stuff how we want to do stuff. So if you guys want to see like face cam or something like that, I'm sure we can find a way to do that, so that way you're not just looking at a screen of both of our logos and pictures popping up, because that's what it is going to be for now. But in the future, if that's stuff you guys are interested in, just let us know. We're open to a lot of suggestions, so we very very much appreciate hearing from you guys in terms of what kind of stuff you'd like to see for the future of this podcast. Now, me and Nate were talking about this, so we wanted you guys to give us some input on this as well in terms of where the podcast is going. So this first episode is going to be uploaded on my channel, and then we're thinking about alternating who uploads it, so that way both of us have something to upload every 2 weeks or so whenever we do this. And we can tailor stuff to our channel specifically, and it'll give each one of us kind of like a breather in between who's taking the reins on taking being like the lead host, I guess, or whatever, so that
Right.
way we can both contribute equally. So if you guys have any qualms with that or any suggestions, if you guys would, be fine with it, alternating channels, and we just have like a collaborative playlist where we can just throw all of the episodes in on both of our channels, so you guys can easily navigate that stuff that way. Or if you guys would prefer them just being on one channel, we can either stick to one of our channels, or we can even make like a separate channel that's separate of the two, just dedicated to the podcast. But those are all just ideas. I'm running out of my head right now, so if you guys have any suggestions for that, just let us know. We are all ears. And then I think just topics in general too. I know we wanted to focus mainly on Lego figures, but we wanted to keep it kind of broad with the name Custom Recap, because there's a lot of other stuff that me and Nate are interested in terms of customs, like action figures for example, like Black Series and model kits and stuff. There's so many different customs out there. So if there's stuff that piques our interest, you might see an action figure in here or two. I know I'm working on an action figure right now, so that'd be something I'd like to talk about in the future at some point. But yeah, if you guys have any other topics other than just talking about customs and stuff like that, just let us know. Um, Anything I'm forgetting?
I think you got it all. I think other than that, if we want to quickly plug our stuff or whatever, I think if you guys are interested in some of the Mandalorian stuff you saw earlier in this podcast, check out my stuff. It's on Instagram. Everything is just at natesminifigs.
Yeah, I'll put all the links in. Do you have a link tree that I can throw in there?
I don't have a link tree, but I should get one.
Yeah, you should make one, but I'll put it, if you don't make one by the time this goes up, I'll throw all your links to your YouTube and your Instagram and your store down below. And then I'm still working on cast as usual. My caster kind of ran into some issues recently, so casts are going to be delayed a little bit, but for good reason that I don't really want to get into right now. But I got a lot of stuff that's going to be coming out here pretty soon, including all the casts I talked about earlier in this podcast, as well as the General Grievous cast that I've been talking about for like 2 years at this point. I think one other thing is the hashtag. Now, me and Nate are pretty active on the Instagram community, and I feel like we follow a lot of people on there, and so we get a good variety of customs out there. But we wanted to make a hashtag custom recap for you guys to put on your figures for us to look at and possibly include in future episodes of the podcast. Now, it's not like a guarantee, because obviously we want to talk about stuff we think is innovative or creative or just really stands out or something like that. But if you guys want to use that hashtag and throw it on your post, we'll be looking at that regularly to pick out some of our favorites.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that moving forward, hopefully you guys can be more a part of this with suggestions for technical things or like the hashtag that Aaron just mentioned. Yeah, I hope to see we can have a lot of interaction with you guys and have a good community moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know this we plan on this going for an hour, and we're almost at the 2 hour mark, but some of that might be trimmed down during editing, but we hope as we do this more regularly, it's just going to be a lot easier, and it's going to be a lot more natural, because obviously this is the first episode, so it's going to be a little rough, like I was saying. But we're hoping to get it streamlined here pretty soon. But yeah, I think that kind of sums up everything, unless Nate, you have any closing thoughts.
No, I think that's it. I think you got it all.
Okay, cool. Well, again, thank you guys so much for tuning in to this episode. Let us know what you guys think. If you guys have any suggestions for things, just let us have it. We're open to all criticisms and everything like that, since we are fairly new to the scene. But yeah, we appreciate you guys listening. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you as always. Remember to subscribe to both of our channels, and check us out on Instagram and both of our respective stores. And yeah, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys later.